Hi everyone, welcome to the Panhandle Research and Technology Tour Plus, hosted by the Panhandle Research and Extension Center in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. This event was recorded on December 2nd, 2020.
All right, well, looks like it's time to get going. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Carlos Urrea, who is our dryable bean breeder here at the Panhandle Research and Extension Center. And he'll be giving a presentation on the current updates to his breeding program. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Carlos Urrea. I am the dry bean breeder with the University of Nebraska. Today I'm going to be talking about potential UNL dry bean breeding line releases. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the contribution of Eduardo Valentin Cruzado. He's my technical support. This year I planted 21 elite lines. Of those, 11 lines were Great Northern beans and 10 pinto lines. And in case of the northern beans, the average yield from 2015 to the 2018 was between 2866 and 3342 pounds per acre. And in case of the pintos, the average yield was between 2900 to 3900 pounds per acre. And you can see on the right side of the slide, these beans were planted in Scottsbluff field 8, and there are like 7 rows, 25 feet long plots. And the same set of lines were planted at the Mitchell Ag Lab, and they are planted along the variety trail. I just want to point out that the new releases, anyway, NE11710 is a Great Northern bean, and I have a yield data from 14 experiments carried out in Nebraska. That's the yield, 3197 pounds per acre. You see the yield this is in 20 experiments across different states in the United States, 35 pounds per acre. You see I'm comparing this with the Panhandle Pride, one of my new releases. And you can see compared with the 80s, has a higher yield than Draco as well as the Coin, but it is very similar to the Marquis. And the next release, and it's coming, is NE11736. Has a little higher yield in Nebraska as well across the United States than NE11710. And it's a Great Northern bean, has a bean common Ross UR3 gene plus the molecular marker, has the common bacterial blight resistance plus the molecular marker. You can see on the top right side of the slide, you can see although this is a Coin that is resistant, and you can see on the left side of that particular photo, you can see the commercial varieties really susceptible or highly susceptible to common bacterial blight. Has the high gene for being common viral resistant, and also the marker. Is the first upright plant architecture Great Northern coming from my program. Days to flower in 45 days, and days to maturity, harvest maturity, 92 days, although I want to point out that for the last 2 years has been around 88 days. It's one of the earliest Great Northern beans, and that's the number of seed per pound, 1231 seed per pound. Regarding the seed production in 2020, we have a breeder to foundation seed at the Kimball Experimental Station, 1 acre, and 0.8 acres at the Olathe, Colorado. This is in collaboration with the Colorado State University. And in case of the NE11736, we have breeder to breeder seed increases, 5 lots of 1 pound each at the Kimball Experimental Station, and as well as 0.2 acres at Olathe, Colorado. This is a view at the Mitchell Experimental Station. It was planted by Jean Kasayer at 24 rows. And they were around 0.52 acres each, number 6 and 9, number 7. 6 is NE11710 and 7 NE11736. This is yield from Jean Kasayer from last year. You can see number 36, 41.9, close to 42 bushels per acre, and 10 NE11710, 44.2 bushels per acre, and Virgo 42.2. They have really high yield potential. This was happening in 2019. Back in 2020, it was Virgo, for example, has 62 bushels per acre. NE11710, 67.9, close to 68 bushels per acre. And 1736, 67.3 bushel per acre. I mean, very competitive. I want to point out that NE117 is a lot earlier than Virgo is, as well as NE11736. And this year it was around 88 days from planting up to harvest. And this is in 2019. These beans were tested in Grover Fields. This is Paul Piper's farm. We have like NE11710, like 50.3 bushel per acre. And NE11736 was a little bit lower, that is 8.7 bushel per acre. But we didn't have any commercial checks. They were already harvested when we harvest our plots. And in case of the Relcas farm, this is Justin's, and this is in Garden Valley. You see NE11710, 17.4 bushel per acre, and NE11736, 22.5. And it's really, you can compare and they're very close to the Andromeda, Virgo, Marquis, and even Panhandle Pride. And now jumping into the pinto beans, I do have this line, NE21718, a yield across Nebraska, 33,778 pounds per acre, 9 locations or 9 different experiments, and in case of the United States, 7 locations across the United States, around 27 and 30 pounds per acre. And if you compare this with a Palomino, because this is a slow darkening bean, both of those lines are slow darkening beans. My line has higher yields in Nebraska as well across the United States. The next set of lines that I'm going for release, NE21737 and NE417.6. Both of them are slow darkenings. I mean, it has a yield potential. And I was visiting experimental trial carried out by Colorado State University at Lucerne location. And my lines are above the average. I mean, they're yielding, they have high yield performance. And NE21718 is a slow darkening pinto, has the UR11 gene and also the molecular marker for bean common rust. I mean, it's resistant to many races of bean common rust. Has the CBB resistant plus the molecular marker. Bean common virus with the gene plus molecular marker. Has the semi-upright plant architecture. I mean, it's a 2B to 3.8. Days to flowering 45 days and days to maturity 98 days and around 10.6 per pound. You can see that we have breeder to foundation seed going on 1 acre at the Kimberly Experimental Station and 0.5 acres at the Olathe, Colorado. And in case of the 21737 and 476 breeder to breeder seed increases, 5 lots of 1 pound each and plus 0.2 acres at Olathe, Colorado. I mean, there's going to be seed available in 2021. This is on yield data. This is on Bennett's farm. This is by Garden Valley. You can see our line NE21718 yielding 28 bushel per acre. I mean, you compare with the other commercial lines, Radiant, Vibrant, Palomino, I mean, there's no much difference. And 20 seed per 100 grams. I just want to come back to for example, I released the Panhandle Pride, a gray northern bean with 2 genes for bean common rust resistant, common bacterial blight, and bean common mosaic virus. It's a mid-season variety, 87 days, larger seed, around 35 grams per 100 seeds. Has higher yield than coin. And we have, this year, we have in 10 acres planted at the Kimberly Experimental Station. And in case of the other gray northern bean that are released coin, still has a pretty stable yields. Days to maturity 90 to 92 days. It's an upright to semi-upright plant architecture and seeds per pound 1,300 seeds per pound. I just want to point it out. It's an observation that the coin has higher yield than the Panhandle Pride this year. I haven't seen the other varieties. We are working with the yield data. We're going to start processing that information pretty soon. But looks like the coin has a heat tolerance, and we have been hammered by heat this year. The yields are significant higher in coin compared to the Panhandle Pride. A new market class that I have been working, the Calima types, has the potential to be planted here in this area. This is in 2019. You see two of these lines were planted in Paul's Pepper Farm, and you see the yields 38 to around 3,800 pounds per acre. I mean, it has a lot of potential. The only problem that with this line is a little bit they are late season varieties or lines, and it has to be planted earlier on. Finally, just wanna give thanks to the Nebraska Dry-Bean Commission and the UNL ARD for the financial support. Bennett's Farm, Justin Relska, Courtney Schuler, Nolan Berry, and Trinidad Benham Corporation for helping us with the experiments in growers' fields, as well as processing our beans in their facilities. To the summer crew, Gene Casar and Farm Group, and also the Yale crew. They are very fundamental in my program. And thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Carlos, for your presentation. Do you have any additional data or anything to update the presentation with, or are you ready for questions?
Yeah, I'm ready for question anyway. In the next few days, I'm gonna have all the yield data from the variety trial conducted at both experimental, location in Mitchell and Scott Block. We are just finishing all running the analysis right now anyway. Hopefully I'll have that data ready for the Nebraska Dry-Bean Commission meeting in the next 2 days anyway.
It's a lot of data to collect. Any questions from any of the or attendees or panelists before I ask some of my own? So, Carlos, the new varieties you're discussing, when will those be available for farmers to plant?
Yeah, the two lines, the slow darkening NE2 1718 and the Great Northern bean NE1 1710 is gonna be ready for being planted in growers fields in 2022. Right now, next year, hopefully we'll go foundation to foundation, seed increases anyway. We're gonna be blowing out the seed for both experimental lines, and in the next, 1 or 2 months, I'm gonna be giving some names anyway. Instead of, maybe giving numbers, giving a formal name anyway.
Do you have any names picked out?
No, not yet. I have a list of names, and mainly coming from Nolan Berry. He has been providing me some of those names, and they look pretty nice anyway. I'll be looking in the next, anyway, 1 or 2 months.
But as someone who's not a breeder, that seems one of the funner parts is naming the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos, are you going to have one of them, Barry, for Nolan then? Is that one he requested?
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have one for him anyway. Yes.
Besides yield, what are the other traits that you're trying to accomplish with these varieties?
Yeah, I just trying to incorporate multiple disease resistance. Beans are susceptible to many diseases anyway. I think Bob Harbison is very happy to put in beans anyway. Developing beans with common bacterial blight resistance that is endemic in this region. With bean common rust also resistance. And also trying to get some white mold avoidance through developing beans with upright plant architecture. And indirectly, I'm working with some selecting since I have been working on drought anyway, selecting beans that have some, root rot resistance. And those are the, particular traits in case of the diseases. I'm trying to develop also beans that are early for this region anyway. That they can be ready to be harvested by September 15 because of the early frost. Of course, working with the upright plant architecture anyway, because the industry is moving towards the direct harvest. and good seed qualities, not only size, but also the shape, the bright of the seed coat integrity. I mean, to make our industry more competitive at the global, I mean, a global level anyway.
And do you have any other market classes that you're working with that are close to having variety releases or far along in the breeding process?
Yes, I do have actually didn't show up I mean, during the presentation, something happened on the slide anyway. The Kalima type is a red model bean, and it's yielding pretty well here at the station and also in growers fields. We have that one planted in 2019. Well, it was in Paul's Peepers, farm, and yield pretty well anyway. This year I have it in the seed increases going on in Oleta, Colorado, and it was really two of those lines that look pretty good. And working with the yellow beans, some of my lines have the potential. I have tested and with a panel that was assembled by the Karen Sihi from USDA ARS. And my lines and this panel of yellow lines are coming from Africa, from Colombia, from the United States, and from several places. And my lines are very, very competitive anyway, and they have really good seed quality. I'm hoping to bring some of the seed samples to show to the commission anyway for they to take a look anyway. But in general, I'm working with 8 different market classes. Okay, Northerns, Pintos mainly, and then we have some blacks, small reds, Kalima, light red kidney, dark red kidneys, and yellow beans. And within each market classes, my lines or my best lines are, has in general better yield than the commercial checks.
Okay. Are you getting a lot of demand or requests from the industry for different lines besides, I guess, the main ones that are grown here? You mentioned blacks. I don't see a lot of black beans out in our area, but is there interest at all from the growers here?
I think that, one of the issues, I think to me, the main issue is going to be that they're going to have to have a different facility to start for them to start processing those, different beans anyway. But I am ahead of the, ball game anyway. I have the lines ready whenever they want to, grow my lines. The lines are there anyway. I've been thinking even with for example, in case of the Kalima, to have some exports, we can able to export beans to the South America and the Central America region anyway, or the Caribbean anyway, because of this new market class. And perhaps in, Africa, the Africa continent, like those kind of larger beans anyway.
Well, thank you. Is there any further questions from any of the other attendees or panelists?
Yeah, Carlos, I know that this is a little bit off subject, but I know you also work with chickpeas, and you are fairly close, aren't you, to the release of some chickpea cultivars that have some really good tolerance to Ascochyta blight. I just wondered where they were in the shoot.
Yeah, we have the New Hope is still, has having some issues from the beginning anyway with the increases. There were like some of the fields that were flooded, and too many issues anyway. But I think this coming year there's going to be enough seed for this cultivar to be tested in grower fields, and has really nice package for Ascochyta blight. I will say tolerance anyway, it's not immune anyway. It's resistant, and more resistant to other commercial cultivars. It's going to show some Ascochyta blight, but it's minimum compared to the other commercial lines anyway. And I have several lines. They are coming. They're close to being released as well anyway, as a cultivar anyway. The more couple, 2 or 3 lines are in the pipeline has really nice, yield potential.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
Any other questions? Well, I think that might be all then. You got some time left, Carlos. So if you have anything else you'd like to add on, please feel free to. If not, I guess we'll turn it over to Emily and go for a break.
Okay.